Hi everybody, welcome to Magic Universe. So something interesting happened yesterday when I was getting prepared to do this recording for All the Colors of Night. I got distracted and I went down an internet hole where one thing led to another, and then all of a sudden I was just so curious about the story of the Exorcist, which I have never read the book or seen the movie, and I don't plan to because I'm really not into scary things, despite my fascination with paranormal and supernatural things. But so, what I do know is the barest minimum of what the story is about. There's a girl, she gets possessed, and then there's an exorcism, right? And those are the only things that I knew about the story. And I just got so curious, like, what happened to the girl then? Like, were they successful in getting rid of the demon? And or did she die, or what happened? And so I looked that up and I found out how it ends. And I was like, well, that's one way to do it. And it's interesting to note that the author doesn't actually think the story is scary, because his whole thing is that it's about faith, and it's about, if you believe in demons, like if demons exist, then angels must exist, right? And so I just found that was so interesting, his logic about that. And oh yeah, the thing that I noticed was that the title of The Exorcist, like I was saying, when people talk about that, I just think of the girl and I just think about demons, right? But the exorcist is actually the priest, right? So the story is actually more about the priest than the girl or the demon. And so that makes complete sense now that I know how the story ends, right? Which then also ties into the sequel, which the author titled Legion. And where he got that from is that in the Bible, there's a story about Jesus coming upon a possessed man, and Jesus asked him, like, what's your name? And the guy answers Legion, because legions of demons have been funneling through him, right? And so the sequel is actually about the demon. And I want to, this isn't really a spoiler, but if you don't want to know anything about the end of the sequel, then skip over to the next part. I'll have timestamps in the description. But there's this quote I want to read you from Wikipedia, where Kinderman, that's the police detective that is trying to solve the case, he kind of wraps up like what he thought about the whole thing that happened in the sequel, by saying that he believes that the Big Bang was Lucifer falling from heaven, and that the entire universe, including humanity, are the broken parts of Lucifer, and that evolution is the process of Lucifer putting himself back together as an angel, which is so deep. And so, like, the whole thing is actually about faith, that if there is bad, then there must be good, which in a way it does kind of make sense. But I don't know that it translates, in terms of the movies that came out, that's what he was trying to say about it. But like I said, I haven't watched it or read the books, so this is just commentary from a person who was curious about that story. Okay, let's move on to the actual topic of episode 3 of Magical Worlds, All the Colors of Night. So what I was doing prior to getting diverted into the Exorcist world was I was looking up Jayne Ann Krentz, the author of All the Colors of Night, and just refreshing my memory about the worlds that she has built with all of her books, because they all kind of tie in together. There's like common elements in the storyline, and there's people that show up that have shown up in previous books. And so I kind of wanted to like paint a picture of these worlds that she's built, and then tell you how this particular book and this trilogy fits into that world. Okay, So Jayne writes in three different names. She writes as Amanda Quick in her Victorian era novels. And then the descendants of those characters show up in the current modern time, which she writes in as Jayne Ann Krentz. And then there's like a more futuristic, like even more descendants, right, into the future on another planet where she writes as Jane Castle. So, what all of these books have in common is that they're part romance, part suspense, like some crime happens where people have to solve it. And then these people, they have some sort of psychic ability, right? And so that's the part that makes these books fascinating to me and why I like them so much is that psychic ability part. So in these worlds, there's a secret society of psychics, and they, in the modern days, like computerized, they have them labeled as like level 2 psychic, level 10 psychic, you know, and then they all have they're all categorized into different types of psychics depending on their ability and the things that they can do. Like there's people who just read auras, and then there's people who could focus their energy into something that's more like a weapon, you know, that can attack people. And so it's really interesting the different types of things that people can do, like just with the way she's describing energy and how they can focus energy, see energy, sense energy, stuff like that, right? And so I really like that it's in some of the stories, it's like a common thing where most everybody is a psychic of some sort, and that it's just a common thing. It's like they don't even question it, and they talk about energy. They use their own terminology and their own vocabulary and language, you know, to describe their different skills and stuff like that. And then there's other stories where it's like the setting is just normal, regular Earth, except that some of the people have psychic abilities. So that's why that society, it's called the Arcane Society. That's why it's secret, because it's supposed to like keep track of or control some of the activities that happen, because, you know, because there are good guys with psychic abilities, there are also bad guys with psychic abilities, right? So there are these organizations that are built up to fight the bad organizations or something like that, right? So anyway, All the Colors of Night actually is the second book in the Fogg Lake Trilogy. The first book, I read it, it was okay, you know, but I like the second book better. But if you want to read it by itself, I think it's fine. But there are some characters that, you know, filter in from the first book. So if you really want to read it, read the first one first and then you get to the second one. But I like the story of the second one better. I like the premise. I like the background of the characters better. It's just more interesting to me. So in this trilogy, Fogg Lake is a place where there was some kind of paranormal explosion that happened in the caves nearby, and the residents of Fogg Lake were asleep for a couple of days because of this explosion. Like some kind of poison or something came out of the caves and just enveloped that entire community, and they woke up with abilities, and then it affected their descendants, right? So this story is about the descendants of the people from Fogg Lake, and so they have these abilities to use their energy to, say for like the girl main character, her ability is to use a mirror to focus her energy, and then she can just make people unconscious with it. And then for the guy, his ability is to be able to see at night in the dark, like be able to see energy in the night, and he's able to see as clearly as in the daytime. But recently something happened and he's been losing that ability of his, right? So the people that he works for gave him these special glasses so that he can function, because ever since he started losing his ability, he's been hallucinating and seeing other things that aren't there, right? And so that's how he's coming into the story, that he has this problem, but and that he's so then he might lose his job because now his ability is going away, right? And so the case that he has to solve here is that his father got attacked and he's basically in some kind of coma like state where he's conscious, he's awake, but then like he's not responsive, like he has no control over his body. So this guy, the son, North, that's his name, is going to solve what happened to his dad, right? And he is put together with the girl. Her name is Sierra. So this is a romance novel. So obviously these are two people who find each other and they're soulmates and they fall in love during the course of solving what happened to North's dad, right? And this is not really like spoiler, because this is what happens in every single one of her novels, is like these two characters come together, solve a crime, and they fall in love in the process. And it's always a happy ending, which is something that I like about reading these books, is that you know what to expect. Like there's no terrible thing that's going to happen to a character that you like, and they're not going to get killed off. They're not going to, nothing horrible is going to happen to them. And you know to expect that there's a happy ending, and so you're not going to be devastated at the end of the book, which sometimes that happens when you read certain books or you watch certain shows. It's like, no, don't do that. But it doesn't happen in these books. It's always like you go on a nice fun ride, you get a little murder mystery or some kind of mystery, and they solve it, they fall in love, happy ending, boom, and that's what I like about it. And the writing style of this author, Jayne, I like that it's very conversational and really, really easy to read. And she puts in some kind of humor in there. Usually there's like a funny person, or it's not always a person either. There's always like some kind of funny character, maybe like a pet or something like that. And so it's really fun. I like reading her books a lot. And yeah, so these are romance novels, right? Part romance. So there's going to be a sex scene or two in there somewhere. And what I find kind of hilarious sometimes is like in the middle of running for their lives, these people like will all of a sudden get hot for each other and they'll just have sex. and then they'll, get up from that and go track down a murderer or something like that, right? Oh, so the Arcane Society that I mentioned earlier is just kind of like a rumored mythological type of thing. In this particular story, the people, they're not sure that it actually exists, but then it does get confirmed that it does exist, and then they find out that a couple of people are actually part of that society, or descendants from the people of that society. So it is linked somehow, but it just like minimally touches upon it. So now I'm going to get into some spoilery bits just to talk about some parts of the book that I really enjoyed. So if you haven't read it and you want to skip out on this, that's cool. There's this one part where Sierra was telling North that the night before they met, a client pulled a gun on her, right? That's how the book begins. And so North was like, "Oh, are you serious?" And then she says, "I don't make jokes when it comes to guns. Here's the conclusion I have recently arrived at. I am willing to risk my neck for a really good cause, but damned if I want to do it just to deliver hot artifacts to collectors." That's her job. And then so he's all like, "Well, I can't help but remember that last night someone tried to blast our senses with some kind of light grenade. You could have been seriously injured or killed." And she says, "But for a good cause. We're trying to save your dad's life here." And he says, you don't even know him. And she's like, so what? And so he's really trying to be all heartfelt and everything and thank her, right? And so he's all like, thank you. And she's all, don't worry, you'll get my bill. And I just really like that. And then this other part that I liked was when in the beginning, he hadn't been able to sleep for a long time because he was really scared that if he fell asleep and say those special glasses fall off his face, because he has to wear them like all the time. And she hadn't even really seen what he looked like, without those sunglasses on. And so he was afraid that if he fell asleep, that those glasses would fall off, and then he would wake up and be enveloped in hallucinations, and that he would go insane. That's what he was afraid of. And I liked that with her power, she was able to use that locket that she has. She has like a little locket with a mirror on it where she can focus her energy, and she can either, make people faint or put them to sleep, right? So she was able to use her ability in order to help him fall asleep and get a good night's sleep finally. Another thing that I liked was the house that his grandfather built. His grandfather was a magician and also like a really powerful energy manipulator and a inventor of sorts, right? And he built this house that had these built-in psychic energy traps, that if there's any burglar that comes along, that the house, quote, the house can take care of itself. And it could protect itself from people who are trying to intrude onto the property. And so I thought that was really cool. Oh, another thing, Sierra's mom, her psychic talent is the energy of singing. And so she is able to sing like operatic style, right? And be able to calm the energies within North's father's aura, because they were kind of like working against the clock to try to find something to be able to reverse the state that his father was in, right? And Sierra's mom was able to sing and stabilize the energies within the father's aura so that she could buy them more time in order to track down something that could help get him out of that comatose state. So I thought that was really cool to have that kind of ability, to use sound vibrations in order to stabilize somebody's aura. And then that scene when they had decided to hang out in the cave and just eat something, because they had packed for a trip to go into Fogg Lake, and because the technology and stuff doesn't really work because of the paranormal energy around Fogg Lake, that they might get trapped in there. And the reason why it's called Fogg Lake is because it's really foggy there sometimes. Like paranormal fog comes in and then you just get totally disoriented and then you can't find your way around anymore. So they were aware of that, and they had packed food and things and supplies in case they were trapped somewhere before the fog lifted, right? And people are able to find them. So North packed a bottle of vitamin water and energy bars, and then Sierra took out of her pack, she's got like a giant napkin that kind of looks like a tablecloth, and she's got like cheese, and she's got a baguette, and she's got olives, and it's like a total picnic. And she says, just because people are trying to kill us doesn't mean I have to eat boring food. So I thought that was really funny. Oh, and then so North goes, I don't believe this. Next thing I know, you'll be taking out a bottle of wine. And she goes, of course not. Glass bottles are heavy, plus they break easily. And then so she pulled out wine in a box. So it's kind of like these little bits of dialogue that I like about Jayne's books, is that they just have these little humorous conversations between the characters sometimes. And it makes the characters more likable and real, And I really like that she was able to look at his glasses and figure out that somebody was poisoning him and that he really didn't have a problem with his eyes at all, or, with his psychic ability at all of being able to see in the dark and being able to not just see physically in the dark, but also energetically in the dark. And it was really cool, that one scene where they use their abilities together in order to attack the bad guys. He used his other power to be able to generate an abyss where everything around him, like 20 to 30 feet, just gets all dark. So it freaks people out because they can't see. And it's like, I guess it's scarier than just regular darkness. There's something else that makes them go into like a deep state of fear, because these people are like screaming, right? And so what was cool was that if he maintained physical contact with her, she's able to see in the dark like he's able to see in the dark. So she's able to see like paranormal energy and stuff like that. So they held hands, and then they went up to the bad guys who were screaming. And then so she used her mirror locket in order to knock them out unconscious. And so I thought that was really cool, them using their abilities together. And then at the very end, when the mastermind behind this whole thing, Larissa, which I knew it was her, like when she showed up in the middle of the book in Fogg Lake, it's like the second that she showed up, and I was like, there's something off about this girl. I knew she was connected to the bad guys in some way. I didn't know whether she was like the mastermind or not, but it turned out that it was her. And so she confronted Sierra in the ladies' room, where there are all sorts of mirrors that, Sierra could use her power to really blast her energy, which that's what happened. It's like her power is so great that she's not really able to control it, and that's why she uses the little mirror locket that she wears around her neck, right? But like when given free rein to just let her energy go, she can create like a pretty big explosion of energy, and I thought that was like, whoa, super powerful, and I like that. All right, so I think that's all I'm going to say about this book, All the Colors of Night. The title comes from his ability to see all the colors of night. That's where it comes from. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. So read it if you want to. And thank you so much for listening to me talk about things that I like, things that I find interesting in the magical worlds. All right. I will talk more next time. Bye.